Welcome to Justice Talks. My name is Dr. Lori Hall, and today we're going to be talking about common maladaptive coping strategies and why they work. I'm joined by two guests. If y'all would like to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Carrie Hopkins Hall, and I'm a visiting instructor in the criminology department at USF.
I'm Ariana Cobb. I graduated from USF in summer 2025. I will be attending grad school August of 2026. I worked for the federal government for a few years, and now I work at a global law firm.
Awesome. So thank y'all so much for joining me today. So we're kind of continuing this conversation about trauma and coping, and I want us to really unpack maladaptive coping and what that is doing for people. Like, we all cope in a variety of ways, and I think that it's important that we understand that there are not people who use adaptive coping and people who use maladaptive coping.
Right.
That we're all using all of these things can become maladaptive at some point in our life. And so when we talk, to kind of go back a little bit, when we talk about adaptive coping, we're talking about ways that we manage distress that kind of fit into our life, that support our mental health, that really work at helping us work through these things. We're approaching these issues. But when we talk about maladaptive coping, we're talking about avoidance, right? So when we're not addressing the distress, when we're trying to stay away from it, avoid it at all costs, and then we participate in some kind of strategy, some kind of behavior that helps us avoid it, right? And so the most common example is like drugs, right? So you numb yourself, you don't have to think about what's going on, you don't have to even do any work to unpack it. You get high and you go on about your life, right? Mm-hmm. But there are an array of maladaptive coping behaviors, and even behaviors that for some people are adaptive, right? Mm-hmm. And so let's think about some examples of maladaptive coping and why it's maladaptive, but also why it works. Mm-hmm. In the beginning. So I think for me, when I think about maladaptive coping, obviously like the biggest examples are drugs and alcohol. And so if we think about what's going on when individuals consume drugs or alcohol, right, they're getting a rush, right? And they're getting this peak in some kind of substance, right? And that feels good. Mm-hmm.
Right. Or a reduction of symptoms, and that also feels good, right? So
right.
My anxiety goes away, my social anxiety, my depression, my feeling out of sorts, whatever it is.
And what do you think's going on that makes that happen either way? Like either they feel good or that bad feeling goes away.
Like what's going on biologically, or like how, because, it's dopamine.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people actually don't have enough dopamine. And so those are people who are very likely to go to drugs and alcohol, because when they do it once, they're like, oh, this feels better than it would for maybe us. And then people who are experiencing anxiety, depression, some of these other things, to your point, it's, again, avoiding. Like, why is that? What do I need to do about that?
Yeah.
Oh, if I drink or take this pill or do whatever, then I feel pretty normal and I can socialize.
Yeah. So when you talk about dopamine, what we're saying is like there is this peak in dopamine. Mm-hmm. And I think we refer to dopamine as the feel-good hormone, right?
Exactly.
It feels good. Yep. And there are examples of when we get dopamine rushes, like when we play with puppies.
Yep.
Right. We get a dopamine rush, right? Yep. It feels good.
Yep.
When we eat food,
mm-hmm.
it feels good. We get a dopamine rush. Mm-hmm. When we hold babies, we get a dopamine rush. And so like we're looking for that. That's it feels so good.
And that's what evolutionarily makes sense. Like, feed yourself and you will feel good, because we need to keep feeding ourselves. Yeah. Take care of your baby, because evolutionarily, we want people to take care of their babies. So
absolutely,
there's a lot of neuroscience about why it makes sense. And it's not just dopamine, but, that's one of them. And unfortunately, what happens is people who use substances to get dopamine, their body stops producing as much dopamine.
Mm-hmm. I'm so glad that you point that out, because a lot of the research, and I'm sure you know all about this in your work in substance abuse, but individuals who use drugs and alcohol, it takes them a lot longer after they stop using for their brain chemistry to return to normal. And I've even heard some data saying upwards of a year or more to where their brain chemistry kind of bounces back and it's beginning to produce dopamine in the ways that it should. And this is also something that we see in individuals who've experienced trauma with regard to cortisol. So cortisol is the stress hormone. So that's the thing that you start to feel when you feel stress, right? And so with individuals who've experienced trauma, especially early childhood trauma, their cortisol peaks quicker and it takes much longer for it to go back down, right?
Because again, cortisol is adaptive. You need cortisol. If you're getting on the highway and no one's letting you in and you're going to, something bad's going to happen, your body needs to tell you this isn't a super safe situation. Be mindful, be aware.
Yeah.
But in fairly healthy, balanced people, it goes down quickly and, leaves your system.
And so when we think about maladaptive strategies, like, drugs, alcohol, those are the easy ones, but let's kind of focus on other ones like perfectionism. What is perfectionism doing, right? If we think about that. And so if let's unpack what is perfectionism? Well, it's meeting other people's expectations or standards or living up to this ideal, right? To not fail. And so when we start to think about doing those things, like if I do something that you think is exceptional or good, and then I do it, and then you're like, great job. And then I feel good. And so like that dopamine kicks in, right? Yep. And so I'm going to do it again, right? If you think about like children, right? Like when you tell a child, great job, what we see is they get excited, they get happy, and then they do it again.
Yep.
Right? And the same sense that if we shame a child, right, they don't do it again. I mean, in theory, right? Yeah. For the most part, because, well, that doesn't feel good. I want to please them.
And I think a lot of perfectionism, as a recovering perfectionist myself, is also avoidant. I don't want you to dislike something that I did, or I don't want you to kind of, it's not really for me, So for me, a lot of it was like avoiding rejection feelings, avoiding feeling less than, and I've had to get okay with like, I might, bake something like you said, and someone might say, well, it's not really my thing.
And I hate that.
I know.
Like, why would they do that to somebody?
I don't know. But my husband's my biggest culprit. So he's never rude, but he's like, it's not really like my thing, and I'm like, but I get a strong rejection. I have a very strong rejection response from trauma in my own childhood. And I now have to sit with that and go, it's okay that you don't like it, but I have my own feelings about it.
Yeah. I think that's so healthy that you point that out, first of all. More power to you, because I'm still salty. Okay, like, if I made something for dessert and or even food and you don't like it, well then there is something wrong with you. Like, what is wrong with your taste buds? But you pointed out a couple of things that I think that we don't really focus on, and it is that like you felt rejection, right? And that is a trigger, right? So it's like we're getting to the root of these things, right? It's not perfectionism up here that's necessarily the problem. It's that we're masking our ability to allow other people to be separate individuals. I struggle with that. Like, I want you to be happy because like, well, if you're happy, then I'm happy. And then if I'm happy and you're happy, well, then we're all happy. And like, everybody's like, it's fine. Like, we're safe.
Yeah.
You
And that's exactly what I was going to say. It's like, because I'm also a perfectionist, and I feel like many of the reasons why is that it controls my environment too.
Yes.
Like I'm controlling my little world.
Oh yeah.
And it's going to be just like this.
Yep.
And I'm going to have this perfect little happy life because I am controlling that.
Yeah.
That is such a beautiful point, because
So
I
true.
hear so many times people are like, oh, you're a control freak. I'm
making the world better.
controlling myself.
Yes.
Like, and that's what they think. And people don't understand is I am doing so much to control me because that's all that I have control over. Right. And I'm doing everything I can because if I just control me, then I'm safe. Right.
And I think you're good at that. But I think like when I was a perfectionist, I was trying to control my sphere, not just me, you know? And
What do you mean? Your sphere?
it may be my kids, my partner, my home, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Like the house having to be a certain way or the food having to be a certain way or everybody. I'm much more like, it can be chaotic and crazy and messy and I still want everyone to be happy, but it's just going to be happy in a different way. And I had to let go of my perfectionism and my control when I was a single mom with 2 young kids, very little money. And I was like, are they fed? Do they know they're loved? Are they safe? They like just the focus became so much more narrow than all the, you know, couple of years before, like it's the first birthday and it has to be perfect and it has to, you know.
Yeah.
So I think you're right. Like I think for you, you're good at making it about like, I think it still could be dangerous, but I'm going to be perfect. But I was doing it. And I think a lot of people do this thing I have control over, this whole sphere is going to be perfect. And you really don't have control over it, right? I don't have control over what my kids, in reality, what they do, or if the dog is sick or, you know, whatever it might be. So what's your experience of that?
I mean, my experience is, for me, it was like a protection. Like I was protecting myself. So, you know, growing up, I didn't have protection and I experienced a lot of neglect and abandonment. So now that I have, you know, my own little world, I'm going to create it the way I want, and it needs to look a certain way, and it needs to be like this. And I have children, and now that they're older, you know, my oldest is graduating high school, and I have zero control now.
Same.
So now I'm like, oh my gosh, she's graduating. I can't call up the university and say, you have to accept her, you know, and I explain this to her.
I mean, you could.
I tell her like, now this is your life. And that's the hard part, you know, and just last week, my youngest had an 8th grade Washington, D.C. trip. It was the hardest thing for me. You would think
she went alone.
She went alone with 2 teachers and 8th grade class.
You see her face, she would never.
Oh, it was I was the only parent crying like if I was at a funeral. And I had no control over the situation.
Braver than me.
It was horrible.
Do you feel like you try to control your partner?
No, probably because he doesn't let me.
Because like I definitely.
She was like, girl, if I could.
If I could. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
You know, my husband has a very strong personality. But he really does balance me. I think he doesn't say it out loud, but he sees me. And like reminds me, take a breath. Like everything's okay.
Beautiful.
You know, it's like we're not perfect or nothing, but he really like realizes, okay, she's like in this mode right now. It's going to be okay. Just because there's clutter on the kitchen island doesn't mean the world's ending. And I'm like,
it does.
But it is. But it does.
This house is a wreck. And it's only like 5 pieces of paper.
I'm the same way.
We went on a recent work trip, Dr. Hall and I, and when we came back, my kitchen was so clean. And my husband, who we haven't even been married a year, was like, what do you think? What, like, you know, and it's like what you said. He like figured out that like my mental health to some extent or my stress is like linked to like
that's beautiful.
The kitchen is clean, right? Like maybe nothing, you know, it was a gift, but like I can tell that I will start to get into trying to control him, and then I have to be mindful. He'll give me that like subtle, healthy feedback of like, no, you know, I've got this or whatever, but it's definitely that like if I feel out of control kind of feeling, that's and I've done a lot of work on it over time. And you use the example of your kids. My husband and I, our older sons are the same age. And my son has had his license for a while. No problem. I don't get nervous when he goes out, which I know a lot of people are like, what? And
mine's 16 and no.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time. My daughter's 18. Well, she'll be 18 on Friday, and she's very nervous about driving. So he takes her out. My husband takes her out to practice and stuff because I just know that.
That's the thing with us too. Like I have helped his son, like with driving lessons more than him because he gets and his son is going this week for his license, and like I know he's going to be just terrified. And even my mother-in-law was like, I'm so nervous for when he gets. You know, my mom and I are like, it's fine. We all went through it. So, you know, it's just interesting.
But I think it's a good point though, because like you're talking about your experience like with your daughter and driving and then going off, and I'm reflecting on my own, and tell me if I'm wrong, but it's not that you don't trust her.
Right.
It's not that I don't trust my children. It's that like I know that I can trust me.
Right.
And I know that if I drive, we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
But
Right.
But you're not a control freak.
Listen, I know that like they're my world.
Yeah.
Right. And so like I want to do everything I can to protect them. And I'm so afraid of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Sure.
It's not that I don't trust that they're competent, capable
Right.
people. It's that the world has hurt me. Right. And the world can be cruel. And I try to balance that with like the safety of the world, right? It's, it's okay. But like, I still recognize that there is an uncertainty there.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's really hard. Like, I don't know that I would have stayed here and my child gone to Washington, D.C. I probably would have gone and like figured out how to be a chaperone or what. I don't know. But like, anytime my kids were in school and they had like field trips and stuff, like I was always the chaperone. Like I was always like right there going with them. Like, you are going to take my child where? I will be volunteering.
You just described something that I think is worth noting, which is we're talking about coping, and what you basically described is that uncertainty and risk is having to be vulnerable. Like that's pretty much the definition.
That's the scariest thing.
It is scary.
And vulnerability.
And I think that's what a lot of us are trying to cope with is that, like, Brene Brown talks about you're armoring up because you don't want to be vulnerable. And I think that's a lot of what our coping is. It could be defense mechanisms, aggression.
I think we're protecting against that, because I know that like even prior things that you've opened up to me about, anytime that you were vulnerable, right? People did not respond in the way that you needed them to. And we're not talking about like, oh, they didn't say they were sorry. We're talking about they did not do system level things, right? They did not create safety. They did not create security. They didn't provide for your needs in the ways that you needed your needs provided for. I've had the exact same experience. And so like I've gotten to a place, and I think when we're talking about perfectionism, like I am self-sufficient. And in the trauma space, when we start to talk about self-sufficient, that is like a coping mechanism, right? That I don't need to depend on anyone because, well, I've done that. And look where it got me, right? And so like, I'm not going to be vulnerable in that way. I think it's difficult. I don't know if you share this, but it's difficult for me to ask for help.
Yeah.
Like I will just do it myself.
Right.
Like take apart the washer. All right, here we go. We're about to do that. Mow the grass or fix this or go do that or any of those things. Like I'm not going to ask anybody for anything. And if someone asks me, it depends on how you phrase it. Tell me about for you. If someone says, do you want help? No.
Right. Like I'm fine.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if someone was to walk up and just help, I wouldn't stop them.
Right.
If someone was to say, please let me help, can I do this? I may let them assist. But if they ever say, can I help you? Do you need? No, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Because that's me asking them. And expectations have gone out the window for me. Like I don't have expectations for anybody ever.
Yeah, I feel for me in the same way, just because so many people that were supposed to be my protectors like let me down and put me in unsafe spaces and allowed unhealthy things to happen to me. So being protective isn't, like you said, isn't because the children are incapable or not whatnot. It's because so many bad things happen to me. I'm waiting for the next bad thing. And I don't want it to be with people that I love.
We're doing damage control.
Yeah.
We're preventing, right? And like, this is our space. And like, and I think when we're talking about like controlling behaviors, right? Like when we think about that, we don't necessarily think about it as like, can it be maladaptive? But like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Of course you are.
We are tired.
And I also think it's important to keep in mind, like, the illusion of control is really what you have. You don't really have control.
I think that that's a really good point, because like a lot of times we hear, oh, you're a control freak, and I'm like, I'm not. Like, you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. And even with like my children, like my son said something the other day, and he was like, they said you were like so nice and like you seem like a really good mom. And I was like, I only knew the girl for like 5 seconds. Like, how'd she get that? And he was like, because you let us live, like you just let us be. And I'm like, I'm not controlling who they are.
No.
And I'm not controlling how they exist and who they, like their personalities. I'm just controlling extraneous factors.
Right.
Right? Like, who is coming into my space?
Mhm.
Whose spaces are you going into?
Sure.
And like, like we've had this conversation before, like I don't have any resentment for any of the things that I do for them. I know that not all parents share that. Like some parents do get like annoyed. They're like, oh, I have to do all of these things. But like, I am protecting them so much in the sense that like my parents didn't do for me. Like they neglected me. They didn't nurture me. They didn't do the laundry. They didn't make sure I got my homework done. They didn't do all those things. And so like for me, that is a joy.
Right.
I am so like bath time when my kids were young. It was not like, oh, this is a chore. It was like, I get to give this to them.
Right.
I get to read them. I read my children a book every single night. Right. There was a routine. And that, I mean, I was selfish, I think, because I think I was doing it for me. Really, because like it was so good for me. Like, and I am to this day, like I am daylight to darkness. Like I'm going constantly. And like we had that conversation before. It's like, I don't ever feel irritated, annoyed, upset. Like I want to do this. Right. And like, I'm doing everything I can to protect their experience.
Right.
That's what it is. I think it's their experience because nobody protected mine.
Exactly. For me also, like I always say, I feel like it's a little selfish because I'm like, the childhood I gave them healed a childhood I didn't have.
Absolutely.
And I overcompensate, I give them like the extra birthday gift or the extra this and extra that. And then I'm like, oh man, are they like too spoiled now? Like, but then I'm like, well, they'll never know the feeling of not feeling loved. Like they are going to know that.
Absolutely.
And they're going to know that their mom loves them. But it's like extra, I think, because I didn't have it. So I like overcompensate on everything.
I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like we have like 2 or 3 birthday celebrations for the one birthday, like, but we do the same thing. I do the same thing. And there are times plenty, like I feel the same way that you do in terms of like, I am parenting and nurturing myself while I'm doing this for them. And it is a very healing thing to be able to do that. But I mean, I don't feel like it's maladaptive for me. I don't feel like it causes issues. I think that where control becomes maladaptive is when we're controlling the way that other people exist. Right. And the things that people are able to do or not able to do. And I think that we don't make that distinction enough. Like you said, the illusion of control. Really, like you have to ask that question, like, who are they controlling? Right. Are they controlling other people? And then that's maladaptive. But are they just controlling certain factors within their life for protective mechanisms? Maybe not so much. Maybe I would say that's adaptive. Like I don't feel like it's like, I don't know, like if you feel that way, but I don't feel like stressed and in the sense, but I do definitely recognize that like this controls my life in that sense, if that makes sense. Like I don't, like people, I had a therapist once was like, just let the rug be messed up. And then I figured out how to get my kids to fix it for me. But like, so when we're talking about maladaptive behaviors, it can be anything.
And you did say it's exhausting. Like, I think it's fair to look at something and say there's so many positives, and you guys both gave great examples. But then also look at possible negatives and still decide you want to do it. And also look at like sustainability. Is this something you can do year after year and that's only you guys know that for yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point too. I don't know, like I don't feel like I get like a dopamine rush from just like the control
Yeah.
aspect.
Mhm.
I think that I get it from the accomplishment of things. Like we've talked about that before. Like, if my children have a lot of needs in a particular day or week, and I'm able to meet all of those and still meet all of my own personal needs and goals, like I think I get a dopamine rush from that. But like the making sure, like the self-protective things and like the illusion of control things, I think that that's just every day. I think
Yeah.
that's just like I'm moving through the day and like this just has to be done.
Right.
Like there's not really a negotiable. It's not
Mhm.
like I have a choice of waking up and deciding whether or not I'm going to take a shower. Like my self-protective mechanism is that yes, you're taking a shower and yes, you're going to do your hair. Like I envy those people. I don't know if you're like this, but like I must make my bed. I must
Oh,
take my
yes.
shower. I must do my hair
Mm-mm.
every single day. There is never, ever, ever a day that those things do not happen. And there are plenty of days that I wish that I could be that person.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
There are plenty of days that I wish I could sit in my pajamas,
Mhm.
but it does not happen. Every day I get up and I mean, immediately I take a shower and I make my bed. I get dressed, I do my hair, and I start my day.
Yeah.
It
If I
doesn't
make
matter.
our bed, like, I'm like, look what I did, like once a month or something. I'm like, we just keep getting back in it. I like change the sheets, but I don't make the bed. And I definitely spend the day in my jammies if I'm working from home. Heck yeah.
I envy people that are able to do that. And I mean,
Yeah.
and just unfortunately, like, and I say that with all sincerity. Like, I genuinely envy those people. Like, I'm going to cry because, like,
Mhm.
I wish that I could have that.
Yeah.
But, like, like being raised by my father, like that
Mhm.
will never happen. And I even feel guilty if I wake up after the sun. Like, I have nowhere to go. Why do I get up at 5 o'clock? Right. And like, it sucks. It sucks so hard. And like, to sit in your pajama, like if you have nowhere to go, why am I taking a shower and like getting dressed like completely? Like, it is so annoying, but trust me, plenty of days that I try. I'm like, I'm not going to do that. And it doesn't happen.
And I can attest
have
to that for Dr. Hall because I was in her class and I work out at 5 in the morning, not because I love it. Trust me, that's another podcast. But, and after my workout, it was like I had to do her, work for her class because my schedule's so crazy. I would email her and she's responding like 5:45 in the morning. And then like at night when I'm doing class work for other classes, she's like emailing the class. And it's like 10 something at night. I'm like, does Dr. Hall like sleep? I'm glad I'm not the only one. Like,
Yeah.
so she is like up super early and I don't even know if she goes to sleep, but I can attest to that.
Like, and that's another thing. It's like, I feel guilty for sleeping.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get more than like 5 hours. And if I do, like, I feel guilt.
And I think, like you said, it's almost like another podcast, but like I worry about like the glamorization of busyness or the like go, 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 like that's like, obviously everybody's different, but like as culturally, like I'm very big on self-care and rest.
I know. I had to drag her here on spring break. She was like,
spring break is
no.
a break. A break.
I was like, I'm working through it. But
it couldn't be me.
Yeah, and like the hustle mentality, right?
Yes.
But that's not what I'm struggling with, right? It's like really, it's shame and like the guilt. Like I grew up like idle hands is the devil's playground. And, like my dad saw idleness as laziness and like that's the worst that you could be. But also like there was always this fear of like, not just with my dad, but like later on in relationships, like idleness equated to victimization. Like, and so like if you're not doing something, that was when you were going to be hurt in some capacity. And so like I stay busy, but like genuinely the people that can just get up and like exist, and I say that all of the time, I wish I could just exist, just to be like, I struggle for that every single day of my life. I'm like, that is like a goal. Like I want that and I just can't. Like
So the busyness is a coping.
Oh, absolutely. Like anything I've ever accomplished professionally is absolutely coping 100%. I will be the first to attest to that. Like I'm proud of my accomplishments to a degree, but you know, like my kids ask me all the time, they're like, what are you afraid of? Like, what's your biggest fear? And I'm like, failure. Like that's the first, hands down. And they're like, well, what does that look like? And I'm like, I have no idea. I have no idea what it looks like. I don't know what it looks like, but I know I can't be it, you know? And I can give you examples of like that, you know, like, and these are like really raw, like to be like my family, that's a failure. And I mean, it's unfortunate, but like, you know, like anytime that I resemble any of them in any capacity, the smallest thing, I change, I evolve, I become different. Because like that to me, I cannot be, you know? And like, I had a conversation with one of my children years ago, and like, people don't understand what poverty does to you. People do not, because every single day of my life, I feel like I am running away from poverty. I feel like, and this is another part of that busyness, I feel like if I stop, if I take a break, it will catch up.
That's exactly how I feel.
Up.
Yeah.
And so like when I see people, and I don't mean like I want to control them, I mean in the sense that of people that have the luxury of rest. One, I envy it. And two, I'm so terrified of it. But you know, like with my own children, I have to balance like my own trauma with them to not push them. And I do manage that very well, you know, but I don't give myself that same grace, right? Rest is, poverty's catching up because it was so horrible. And I cannot even put into words like how much poverty steals from you in a very like organic way. We're not talking about scarcity mindset at all. We're talking about something far greater than that. And I don't even understand how we can continue to allow this to persist for children in and of itself, beginning right there, like how children can ever experience that, right? There is no, you want to torture somebody, you put them in poverty. And every day of my life, I feel like I am running a marathon to get away from it. And I can't stop. And so when I look at people that I work with, I envy them because, and I other myself immediately because I feel like I am next door to poverty and they're so far from it. And I can't stop in anything that I'm doing because, well, poverty is right there. It's right there. And it is just, I think that that's one of the bigger fuels of the not being able to rest. It's, I mean,
that's exactly the explanation that I've given to my husband. We lived completely different lives. He's never lacked anything, and I have. And when he'll ask me, like, you know, you can just like hang out, it's going to be okay. And I have explained to him that I'm just afraid to have that kind of life again. You know, I know what it is to not have a gallon of milk, and you have to like wait to get the gallon of milk, and lights turned off and roaches around you and like all of that. So it's something that you experience that shocks you. you know,
Mhm.
as a child, and it carries on with you. And now as a mom, I worry, like, I can't have my kids have that. Like, no, I have
Absolutely.
to work, save,
Mhm.
save. Yeah.
Anything that even reminds me of,
Yes.
like there was a long period of time, like I struggle with food addiction, and it is like multifaceted struggle, right? So like I would have more food, like more food than we can consume,
Mhm.
right? And anytime that we were out of something, I replaced it immediately, even if we didn't have a plan
Mhm.
to use it in any capacity, And it was like it is problematic. I still am struggling with like not
Mhm.
doing that. But like it you don't want anything to ever remind you of
Right.
it.
Right.
And like anytime my kids like even if they're like joking, they're like there's nothing to eat. What do you mean there's like there's
Right.
I got all what do you want? Do you want me to go get you something? Like
Mhm.
Yeah.
I can make you something,
Mhm.
and it's like like when I was a kid, like every day, all day, there was absolutely nothing in our pantry, nothing in our fridge. And I'm not talking about the nothing that you say when you don't have anything that just jumps out at you. I'm talking about my mom kept a jar of mayonnaise in the refrigerator, and that was it.
Mhm.
That was it. She didn't believe in buying groceries. Of course, we didn't have money. She wasn't on food stamps because like that wasn't like it wasn't a thing at that point in time really. But like we had nothing.
Mhm.
And I mean that like genuinely, and we had no furniture. And to just think about like these memories and when you think back and like that is absolutely the most terrifying thing,
Right.
you know? I think that when we think about all of our experiences and the ways that we've come to the way that we cope and why they work is because they bring not just relief, but our autonomy back, our ability to have a say. Like when I was a kid, and I think for you as well, like everybody made decisions for you about everything that you went through. And now, like slowly, bit by bit, we're taking that back from them as we heal. And that's the thing about coping is it gives us our power back in some capacity, whether it's short-lived, right? If we think about people who use substances, drugs, right, and alcohol, in that moment, in that high, they have some ability to have a say in their life in some way. Thank y'all for joining me. You're watching Justice Talks.